The reason we exist really comes from our own frustrations, personal frustrations of dealing with traditional company secretary companies. For example, a seemingly basic task of retrieving a filing I made 2 quarters ago can turn out to be a 2-week endeavor because you're not the only portfolio company that the company secretary has. Oftentimes they have a load of hundreds, if not thousands of companies. So there is that lag in getting that information. So when everything is digital, you actually don't need a co-sec to retrieve it. You can just do it yourself.
Welcome to the iSearch podcast. Today we have Mei Chuen from Quadrant Biz Solutions on the show. So they are a digital company secretary that assists in company incorporation online and also provide company secretarial services. So today I'll be discussing with Mei Chuen on the step-by-step process to incorporate a company in Malaysia. So we will go through the new way and also the old way of incorporating a company. So welcome to the show, Mei Chuen.
Hi.
Okay. So let's begin. So before we dive into the meat of the questions, so for those of us who own companies and also business, we know that we are required to appoint a company secretary. But really, what does a company secretary do?
Good question. I think contrary to its name, the company secretary is not an actual secretary of the company. The company secretary or the COSEC team is responsible for the corporate administration of a company. So that means that they ensure that you're compliant with statutory and regulatory requirements. So what this means for Malaysia, the company secretary team ensures that the company is compliant with Companies Act. And if you're listed, that you're compliant with Bursa and Securities Commission requirements in a nutshell.
Okay, all right. So having helped many companies to start their business in Malaysia, what are some of the key things that people should consider before even incorporating their company?
Yeah, I think the point of incorporating a company is really driven by the need to formalize a business idea. These business owners or entrepreneurs would have a certain concept in their mind and a plan to make that concept a success. So while it's easy to get caught up with the excitement of birthing an idea, there are operational and practical issues to first consider. So some of these questions would be, how far do I plan to take this business and where do I really see this going in about 5 years? Or how am I going to fund this business? Will I fund it myself or am I going to raise capital from investors? What's my risk appetite? And how much time or resources do I have to allocate to the administration of the business and ensure that we are indeed compliant? So the answers to these questions will then help you determine what entity is best suited for your business. One example would be the differences between a sole proprietorship and a Sendirian Berhad entity. I'm going to run through a couple of points to highlight some of the things you should think about before incorporating your company. So one being the level of liability that's placed on the owner or shareholders. The business of a sole proprietorship has unlimited liability. Meaning if I were a shareholder and owner of a sole proprietor, I would be liable for all losses, debts of the business, and I could be sued in my own personal name. This doesn't happen in a Sendirian Berhad. I mean, most of the things would be ring-fenced around the company. 2, taxes. Taxes are a certainty anywhere you go, so there are different benefits for different types of entities. 3, costs of maintaining a Sendirian Berhad versus a sole proprietorship are different. You have more compliance requirements for a Sendirian Berhad, so that means more fees. Other things you might want to think about, if depending on the sector that you're in, is whether you intend to participate in tenders, certain government tenders, or whether you need a specific type of bank account. So there are requirements around those things as well. And while it's possible to transition to a Sendirian Berhad after running a sole proprietorship, I think figuring out this process early will just help you save a lot more time in the future.
So what are the typical steps and procedures people need to take to incorporate a company in Malaysia?
It's fairly straightforward. You appoint a company secretary, and the team will conduct some checks, KYC checks, and fill out paperwork that's required by SSM. At this point, the client then makes some payment for services rendered and the SSM filing fees. Once you're cleared of your KYC checks and get a green light for your name search, the company secretary would just go ahead and incorporate your company. And then traditionally, you would go to the office or you would get your COSEC to bring the documents to you for signing. And that's it. You consider your company incorporated thereafter.
Okay, sounds simple. So besides the name search, what else do they need to provide to the company secretary?
So basic information, and I think this is where some of the old method of incorporating some of the frustrations that exist in this process.
So
Speaking of the
maybe speaking of that,
frustration,
what are
yeah.
some the issues and frustrations people face with all these like so-called traditional procedures?
I think largely has to do with speed and the logistics, the practicalities of getting that information across. It should be very straightforward as I highlighted, it's like 2 or 3 steps really to get it done. But for example, there's a lot of misunderstanding in terms of what information is required by SSM. So there is time lost in the back and forth of getting the right information into the documents. Some of the frequent questions we get are, what does paid up capital even mean? How many directors or shareholders do I need? Or what's the right business code for my company description? So if I'm like sort of shown this form, which has these very, undescriptive fields, it's hard for me to understand what they actually mean. So our platform really strives to educate the customer as to what information should go where. And that tends to cut down the time a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that there will be cases where people go all the way to SSM and then they thought that they can register a company, but then when they go there, they feel, oh, we need to consider this, we need to consider that. Okay, we go back
Yeah,
first, then we
exactly.
come back
Or
again.
minimum requirements, they don't meet the requirements, like, putting in the wrong number of, actually the minimum shareholder or directors is now one, so that's fine. You can only have one, but in the past it used to be two, so that's also something that's possibly easy to misunderstand. Other traditional things that could have affected the process would be like having to physically go pick up the documents, which obviously in a MCO situation is not possible. So again, a digital platform would really help expedite that. And thirdly, I think customers have expressed frustration in not understanding what they're paying for, as in they get a lump sum fee from the secretary and they don't really know the breakdown. So that's also somewhere we try to be very transparent about.
Yeah, I mean, common problem that business owners always complains that we pay company secretary every month, but we don't know why we are paying for it.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
all
Yeah.
right. So, is there a better and faster way to incorporate a company?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We at Quadrant embrace a more digital approach to the whole process. I mean, we understand that human interaction and physical interaction is something that cannot be replaced, but to the extent that we can digitize this process, that's where we've really focused our energy on. And we believe that, ironically, with the lockdown, clients are equally ready to embrace the platform now, given the pandemic and access to digital infrastructure. So yeah, what we do is we have an online form to capture all the information that we need, as well as an online KYC process. We have an onboarding team that has an SOP of, responding to your request within 30 minutes. So that's how we try to move the process along quicker. You can make an online payment, so you can do it via bank transfer, credit card, other preferred mode, PayPal. And once a name search has been approved, the company secretarial team would do what's necessary to get the incorporation done. So all of this typically takes 1 to 2 business days, but we believe in reality it can be done within the day if the client's available at all times. The other thing is client also has access to our portal, a dashboard, where all directors or approved members of the company can access the information to get live updates. So they know what's happening at any given moment. I think that transparency is also quite appreciated because oftentimes it's like a black hole when you tell, your company secretary to do something and you don't hear back for a week. You're not sure what's going on. Here, you just need to check the portal.
Okay.
I could go into a couple other pain points beyond the company incorporation process. Bank account opening is one other thing where, that takes time. And so what we've done is partner a number of local banks and we work with the banks to help you open an account seamlessly so you don't have to deal with any of that pain. And the second thing is, again, tender documents. We face this with some of our clients where tender documents need to be submitted in a time-sensitive manner. And previously, that would have required physical couriering of these documents back and forth, verification back and forth. It's expensive, takes time. Now we do everything online, so it's a lot less stressful in terms of meeting deadlines.
Yeah, what I like about Quadrant is that I don't have to really like call, email, and everything to
Yeah,
SSM. It's like everything I can just like WhatsApp. Like on the website,
that's
there's a
right.
WhatsApp button, so it's like everything is like fast, and I know that it will be done. So I can just WhatsApp and then
Yep.
just wait for the reply and all. So that's where
Yeah,
I
thank
really
you.
see the benefits come in.
Yeah, that's what
So
we're striving for.
okay, so how much does it cost to like set up a company in Malaysia, and like what is the pricing dependent on?
Just very briefly, the incorporation fee and name search fee should cost you 1,040 ringgit. So that's broken up into a 990 ringgit incorporation fee and a 50 ringgit name search. All these are fees to be paid to SSM. And then on top of that, you would pay something to your COSEC
Just
for
like you said,
services.
1,004, right?
1,040. Yes.
1,040. Okay.
Yeah, so it's 990 plus 50 ringgit, basically.
Okay, so once they pay that, then they can start incorporating
Yeah.
their company in, like you say, 1 to 2 business days. Is it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. So to wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience?
I think I would like to just share a little bit about what we've been doing. As you mentioned, we're a digital company secretary firm, and while we do have a full suite of COSEC services, we also do other corporate services such as bookkeeping, finance services, HR, payroll, tax and legal advice. And I think the reason we exist really comes from our own frustrations, personal frustrations of dealing with traditional company secretary companies. For example, a seemingly basic task of retrieving a filing I made 2 quarters ago can turn out to be a 2-week endeavor because you're not the only portfolio company that the company secretary has. Oftentimes they have a load of hundreds, if not thousands of companies. So there is that lag in getting that information. So when everything is digital, you actually don't need a COSEC to retrieve it. You can just do it yourself. So, and the other thing is with our platform, everything can be accessed by the client. So we try to make everything as transparent as possible and try to educate them with all the things that we talked about before regarding company incorporation, what to do after you incorporate. For example, hiring an accountant, appointing an auditor, make sure you file your returns on time, those kinds of things.
Yep. So I mean, like once people incorporate, the next logical step would be like a bank account, accounting,
Yeah.
HR.
Yeah.
So that's where you also help them to like find the
Yeah.
suitable vendors to help
Exactly.
them.
Yeah, I mean, we have some of these services in-house, and yes, we do have partnerships in other places. So what we hope to provide to the client is an all-rounded service, really, where they don't have to reach out to different vendors and try to engage all these services. They can just do everything through Quadrant. Yeah.
Okay, and then all the support will go through WhatsApp lah.
Yeah, exactly. Or we have an internal messaging system as well on the platform. Yeah.
Okay.
So like if you can request a task on the platform. I think yes, WhatsApp is the preferred mode of contact that we are experiencing right now by customers, but you can actually do it on the platform as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean Malaysians we want faster, so we just WhatsApp instead of
Yeah.
email and then
And I think just the inherent human nature where you want to be able to communicate with somebody directly, that doesn't go away. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so great. Thanks, Mei Chuen, for coming onto the show. Check out Quadrant
Sure.
Biz Solutions down below, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Okay, great. Thanks, Benjamin.